Welcome to topic 7, social publishing. So previously we talked about social communities and the sharing and the engagement component. This is all about social publishing. So this is essentially where brands have control about their messaging and their voice, and they get to utilize search engine optimization techniques to essentially get their message out there. So because of that, we're going to focus on 5 key areas. So what are the channels of social publishing? Who creates the content? What content characteristics enhance quality and value? What's the role of social publishing? And how can social content be promoted? Hence why the SEO discussion. So we've got, as I said before, we talked about social communities already, sharing, socializing, conversing, engaging. Social publishing is about like the editorial, the user-generated content, the commercial, essentially, and we do that because we actually have to create content. So what is social publishing? Social publishing is a production of content for distribution via social publishing sites like blogs, media sharing sites, social networking sites, and social bookmarking and social news sites. So we've got different types of social publishers. You've got typical people, you got professionals, you got organizations, you got brands, and obviously you got media companies. So what is content marketing? So content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience and ultimately to drive profitable consumer action. Now, if you're in the not-for-profit sector, that's to drive donations. If you're a social enterprise, it's again essentially to drive not necessarily profit, but drive sales with the hope of improving lives. So it's really focused on that creating and distributing valuable content. So what form can that content come in? A ton. So you've got everything from blogs to videos, you've got featured articles, webinars, press releases, podcasts, photos, newsletters, you got a ton of stuff, case studies. So there's no shortage of the different types of content you can get. So if we evaluate the content for social publications, if we look at blogs, for example, most content marketers think of a blog as the cornerstone, and it's true. Most of your content first will come out of a blog, and a lot of people use blogs. There's literally hundreds of millions of blogs out there, and they all serve a purpose. But for a brand, when all this internet marketing stuff, which it was originally called, came out, everyone wanted a website. If you didn't have a website, you didn't have anything. And then they quickly realized that a website is quite static. It doesn't really change. You post it up, you got an image, you got your little story, how to, maybe a buy button, and it's all over. The blogs were the original way, and they've continued to be so, a way of continuing that story, in continually engaging and making sure that you have a continued narrative with your target group. So they essentially, what it's got in the what section, like they are an online hub. They allow for opinion pieces, advice, checklists, more. They're fundamental if you want to get ranked in search engine rankings. Often they're attached to an organizational website. They don't cost too much to outsource, but if you marry them with keywords, it actually benefits big time, because you can get your story out there. The keywords that you use in your blog will bump up your SEO for your website, and if you're engaging in social, they all work together really nicely. I'm not going to go through and read them all. You've got the slides, you can go through and check them out yourself. But some of the some of the real popular ones, like podcasts, for example, not only are they currently booming in popularity, but people love it. And the reason they're popular is because you can engage in really in-depth conversation, whether it's a 15-minute podcast or an hour podcast. You can actually engage in really, really detailed conversation. It's actually very engaging. You often get people on there who directly relate to buyer persona. And the technology to set one up and actually run one well is not that expensive. So the only thing that's really difficult is sourcing the people to come onto your podcast if you want to have guests, and the time it takes to put one together. It's like running a radio show. So it's not an easy exercise, but you can distribute it everywhere. You can put You can attach it to your website. You can host it on the major sites like iTunes, and it allows people, the same way radio does, to enter an intimate part of their lives. Like they listen to them when they're driving or on the bus or wherever, so they can actually be really immersing people's lives. And then the other one, which was highly in fashion at dying now, is kind of e-newsletters. They still perform a function, especially in a professional setting. If you've got a B2B sort of, if you've got a B2B scenario that you're working in, so business to business scenario that you're working in, ebooks work real well. Now, e-newsletters work well. Ebooks work well, essentially, again, with professionals. And if you want to be a thought leader, it's really important to have, proper publications. But the bottom one is the one I wanted to talk about before we move on to these notions of authenticity, and that's visual content for social media. Maybe illustration, photography, a collage, or video. It's really like your visuals are really important. They actually speak volumes. So, I know that it says they may be difficult to create, but creating good ones that really resonate are actually fundamental. And the quality of them, it never used to matter. It really does now. So and the reason that the quality matters so much for brands is because the shareability of the visual content, right? It has the potential to go viral. So you don't want your brand associated with poor content, like poor quality content, if that's the area that you're in. So what is authentic? So you've got editorials, commercials, and then consumer generated content. Now, why is consumer generated authentic? The other two can be authentic, but they're not considered authentic. It's because user generated content, it has that organic feel to it. It feels untouched by the brand to a degree. It's unspoiled. So it feels like it's coming from a real place at a real time. Now, there's also, we've got very clear marketing objectives for social publishing. So these are the top ones from B2B and B2C. Essentially, again, brand awareness. If you've got control of the voice, you've got control over how you can position yourself. Engagement, very broad term, but it's up there. All the way down to cost savings. Now, cost savings aren't really the big thing, but lead generation through social publishing can definitely work, and so can customer loyalty and retention. So here's some of the objectives. So when you go to design some of your social publishing objectives for your assessment task, just keep this slide in mind. And types of content in social marketing, social publishing strategies. Obviously, you got your social media content, blogs, email, newsletters. Very, very effective. Still very effective. Ebooks, all the way down to podcasts and content hubs and live streams. Now, live streams are not so popular for B2B, but they're increasingly so for B2C, and highly used by media outlets too. It's essentially replacing some of the old broadcasting mechanisms, but they're very effective. For a second, if we just take into consideration the content ladder, like essentially this works from the lowest step of the ladder is like what's least important type of material. So the filler content is just simply information that people copy from other sources. It's not original. Then you got original content. This level relates to contributions that originated within essentially the organization, all the way up to flagship content. It's like authority building content. It refers to seminal pieces of work really that help to define a phenomenon or kind of shape the way people think about something for a long time, right? So what you do hope is that is highly valued content that really builds your reputation and contributes to your brand image and your brand overall. And that any of the original content stuff like the authority building and the pillar component really sets yourself up for a really good social publishing strategy. So what are the types of content that you can have? As you've got how-to articles, you can definition articles, you got theory articles, you got list articles. There's tons of stuff. But essentially, depending on the industry and where you are, each of these has a role to play. But the top social publishing vehicles for marketers, for a B2B, as we said before, the LinkedIn scenario is not unsurprising that it's number one. There's still a lot of work being done in Facebook and Twitter, but if you're in a B2B setting, Snapchat's really not nor here nor there. But if we look at a B2C, the story's a little bit different. Facebook still has essentially a large grasp, but YouTube has a huge role to play in B2C, as does Pinterest. I like Pinterest, it's one of my favorite sites. But so promoting content, we've got essentially two methods. You got paid, and then you got optimized. So sometimes you still have to pay for the optimization, but paid kind of takes into consideration like social promotion, search engine marketing, everything from traditional online banner ads, which are completely ineffective, but people still use them. Native advertising, like we talked about in the last topic, and like print or other offline promotions still work. People still use them, and especially around elections and other times. Media optimization, that covers search engine optimization, and then we've got obviously social media optimization. So SEO is a process of modifying content, site characteristics, and content connections to achieve improved search engine ranking. So marketers develop and publish content in ways that improves the likelihood. So that's where you start relying on your keywords and phrases, how your site is connected to other sites, the type of conversations people are having. And then we've got social media optimization is a process that enhances the likelihood for social content to be visible, shareable. If the content is valuable and engaging, people will share it, post it, rank it, tag it, and augment it, resulting in enhanced search. So essentially, if you're really well aligned with your target group and they know how to find you, and they do find you, and they engage with it, they share it, they like it, that actually improves your chances of more and more people. So if you run like a page on Facebook, you'll see this where it'll say organic reach 2 out of the 1,000 people that you've got, and then as soon as 4 or 5 people like it, you notice that your organic reach has gone up to 40, and then once they like and share it, it goes up to 2,000. Like from 200 people from the last campaign I ran, we end up getting a reach of about 13.5 million people. So if you're strategic about it and you know how the system works and where to place the keywords and how to link them to other sites and how to link them to key people within your community, it actually can be highly effective. So the media optimization matrix. So you've got SEO, so optimized content, value, tags, keywords, titles, URLs, everything we've just mentioned. And then publish related content elsewhere with links to the original, as we've already mentioned, creating a link wheel structure. And SMO, so include share tools and RSS feed options. These are very, very important. And promoting on social news and social bookmarking sites, microblogs, promoting social media press releases. They're all very, very important. Essentially, it's a similar model to offline when you used to do an old public relations press release, but it's just way more sophisticated because, the potential to enhance is far better than just like your local area. So, on-site optimization. Keywords, meta tags, so these are what sit underneath the site. Titles, very important. So some people want to get overly creative with titles, but the most functional titles are actually the ones that pretty much state what you're talking about. Title tags, headline tags, URLs. So tools like Google Keyword Planner, these help marketers select active keywords to use. So I encourage you to just kind of check that out. And offsite, so links and link wheels, so through your Twitter and all the rest of it, connecting, linking the URLs, using the similar keywords, getting people to talk about it and share it. All these will really, really, really help. So SEO tactics, you can essentially, these are kind of borrowed from, they try to borrow them from the hacking terminology, but You got white, grey, and black hats. Now, white hats, essentially, these are people who play by the rules of the system. They strive essentially to provide good quality content. They use the best user keywords and tags and earn links at reputable sites, right? So they try to play by the rules. But then you got the grey hats. They kind of enter, sometimes superficially large numbers of keywords. So if you're into, say, soccer ball hats or whatever, I don't know, you kind of mention it every third word, so it kind of bumps up your rating based on the amount of keywords. Hence why Google kind of moved away from just keywords to start looking at engagement and interactions. They link exchange, where sites agree to link with each other. They may also utilize three-way linking, in which they ensure their own site links to other sites in sequence and back. So, they play a little bit of a game there. And then, obviously, they take advantage of paid links, right? These are considered somewhat unethical. Essentially, you're cheating, right? Because according to the SEO, all this sort of stuff should be earned and not paid for. And then we've got black hats, which, they use gateway pages. So these are pages that reveal visitors are directed past stuffed with keywords, and they use cloaking, all the stuff that we shouldn't do. So I'm not going to teach you how to do the grey hat stuff. I've never entered into the black hat stuff, to be perfectly honest. One, I don't have the skill set, but two, it's just completely unethical. So we'll just stick to the white hat stuff for these assessments, and especially for me teaching you. But just be aware that your competitors may be venturing into slightly unscrupulous territory. So, writing titles with link bait. So, resources hook, 5 tips for great grades. Contrary hook, lose weight with chocolate. Humor hook, obscene skunk cuts out bacon sandwich. Gateway hook, save $50 here. Research hook, 66% of Americans are overweight. So we can kind of see that, the way that we write something can kind of convey like a different meaning, but it also appeals to different people and can kind of play a little bit of a psychological trick on them to get them to consume our content. So we choose a hook that increases the likelihood that the intended audience will click, right? So again, everything goes back to that consumer-centric, user-focused approach. And finally, we've got a little framework there for putting together a social media press release. Some of you may or may not have had experience putting together press releases before. That's just a framework that we like to use. It kind of has everything in it. It doesn't require the person receiving the press release to ask you too many questions. They can, obviously, and that's what you want. You want them to, engage with your content, but it has everything there for them to kind of set up what they need to set up. All right, next we'll move on to topic 8, which we're looking at social. Give me a second. I just had a mind blank. What are we doing next? Social commerce. Great. See you then.